My sister lost it when I got engaged with our grandmother's sapphire ring, claiming it was promised to her first. She hired my fiancé's ex to stalk us, sent anonymous emails to my boss about fake affairs, and started wearing a fake pregnancy belly while telling everyone she was having my fiancé's baby. When I found out she'd been going to fertility clinics trying to get pregnant while pretending to already be 5 months along, I realized her plan was even darker. My grandmother's sapphire ring was supposed to go to the first granddaughter to get engaged. She made that promise right before she died. I'd been dating Caden for 7 years. He proposed on our anniversary with that beautiful blue ring. Everything felt perfect. Then we had our engagement dinner. My sister Molly saw the ring and her face went cold. She stood up and pointed at my hand. That ring is mine. Grandma promised it to me. The whole restaurant stared at us. Our parents looked shocked. Everyone knew Grandma stopped talking to Molly after she stole money from her. But Molly kept yelling about how I was a thief and a liar. She took pictures of the ring before storming out. She screamed that she'd make me pay for taking what was hers. I should have taken that threat seriously. 2 weeks later, Caden's ex Sarah started following us everywhere. She'd show up at our coffee shop smiling and waving. She'd be at my gym talking about their old relationship. Caden blocked her number, but she kept appearing. Then my boss started getting anonymous emails about me. They said I was stealing office supplies and faking sick days. Someone claimed I was sleeping with clients. HR had to investigate everything. They didn't find anything, but everyone at work started treating me differently. My promotion went to someone else. My boss stopped trusting me. The whole time Molly acted like the perfect sister. She'd come over with wine and let me cry on her shoulder. She'd tell me how awful it was that someone would do this to me. I didn't notice her recording our conversations or taking pictures of my personal stuff. Caden and I started fighting all the time. He was tired of Sarah stalking us. I was paranoid about losing my job. We had to postpone our wedding twice. The stress was destroying us. Then Molly asked Caden to meet for coffee. She said she wanted to help save our relationship. Instead, she showed him edited recordings of me. In the recordings, I was saying I felt trapped and wasn't sure about marriage. She had fake text messages where I admitted to cheating with someone at work. She told Caden she was only showing him because she loved me too much to let me live a lie. Caden came home that night and put the ring on the counter. He said Molly showed him everything. He packed his stuff and left within an hour. I called Molly crying and she answered immediately. I could hear her smiling through the phone. She said she was sorry, but some relationships just weren't meant to be. That's when I knew she'd planned everything. Sarah showing up everywhere. The emails to my boss. The edited recordings. But I couldn't prove anything. She posted on Facebook that night about supporting her heartbroken sister. My friend Delaney was a private investigator. I told her everything and she started digging. She found out Molly hired Sarah through some sketchy website. She paid her $5,000 to break up my relationship. The work emails came from fake accounts near Molly's apartment. But the scary part was Molly's internet searches. She'd looked up how to cause miscarriages and make accidents look natural. All of this was right after I got engaged. Delaney wanted me to call the police, but we didn't have enough proof. Everything could be explained away. I started recording everything and installed cameras in my apartment. Molly had copied my spare key and would let herself in. I'd find things moved around and food missing from my fridge. She was counting my birth control pills. Then she sent me a text at 2 a.m. with an ultrasound picture. She said she was pregnant with Caden's baby. The dates made it impossible, but the ultrasound looked real. She told everyone Caden got her pregnant right after leaving me. She started wearing baggy clothes and talking about morning sickness. She set up a baby registry and wore my grandmother's ring to every family event. She said Caden proposed and they were together now. No one asked why Caden was never around. 3 months into her pregnancy, I followed her to a medical building downtown, watched her walk into a fertility clinic. Delaney's contact inside confirmed what I'd suspected. Molly wasn't pregnant. She was trying to be, desperately. Multiple IUI attempts using donor sperm, all failing. She was running out of time before her fake pregnancy became obviously fake. That's when I realized her final plan. If she couldn't get pregnant herself, she'd need a baby from somewhere. And there was one person she'd been watching, documenting, studying for months. Someone whose home she could enter freely, whose schedule she knew perfectly, whose hospital records she'd photographed during those supportive sister visits. I was ovulating next week. Molly knew. She'd counted my pills, tracked my cycle. She'd been documenting my unstable behavior for months, recording my breakdowns, taking photos of my messy apartment, building a case. She was going to wait for me to get pregnant and then prove I was an unfit mother. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Your sister just filed paperwork for emergency custody rights. Thought you should know. Court clerk contact. I looked up to see Molly's car pulling into my apartment complex. She had her spare key in one hand, a folder of documents in the other, and 9 months to convince everyone I couldn't care for a baby she'd already announced to the world. I slammed my apartment door shut and turned the deadbolt. My hands shook as I wedged a chair under the doorknob. Through the peephole, I watched Molly stride down the hallway with complete confidence. She knocked 3 times, then used her key. The door hit the chair and stopped. She pushed harder, rattling the whole frame. I backed away from the door and grabbed my phone. Delaney picked up on the first ring. I explained the situation while Molly continued trying to force her way in. The pushing stopped. I heard paper sliding under the door. Legal documents spilled across my floor. Emergency custody petition. Mental health evaluation request. Affidavits from concerned family members about my erratic behavior. Photos of my apartment during its messiest moments. Transcripts of our recorded conversations, edited to make me sound unstable. My phone buzzed with texts from Molly. She was standing right outside, typing furiously. Each message contained more evidence of my supposed breakdown. Screenshots of my social media showing wine bottles, photos of me crying after Caden left, a video of me yelling at her about the engagement ring, cropped to remove her provocation. I gathered the papers with trembling hands. The custody petition was for a child that didn't exist yet. She'd listed herself as the concerned aunt seeking emergency intervention for an unborn baby's welfare. The audacity made my stomach turn. Delaney arrived within 20 minutes. She examined the documents while I paced my living room. Her expression grew darker with each page. She pointed out forged signatures, manipulated timestamps, and illegally obtained medical information. We had her on multiple felonies, but proving it would take time I didn't have. We changed my locks that afternoon. I gave Delaney the only spare key. She helped me install better security cameras and showed me how to check for hidden recording devices. We found 3. One in my bedroom lamp, one behind my bathroom mirror, one inside my kitchen smoke detector. The next morning, I woke to 50 missed calls. My mother was sobbing on my voicemail. Molly had gone to their house at dawn, hysterical and everyone claiming I'd threatened her baby. She'd shown them the custody papers and said she was trying to protect her unborn child from their unstable aunt. I drove to my parents' house to explain everything. My father wouldn't let me inside. He stood in the doorway while my mother cried behind him. They'd seen the evidence Molly compiled, the recordings, the photos, the concerned letters from anonymous co-workers about my drinking problem that didn't exist. Molly appeared at the top of the stairs, cradling her fake baby bump. She'd mastered the pregnant woman act, one hand supporting her back, the other protecting her stomach. She even had the pregnancy waddle down perfectly. My grandmother's ring caught the morning light on her finger. I tried explaining about the fertility clinic, the fake ultrasounds, the hired stalker. My parents exchanged worried looks. Molly had warned them I might make wild accusations, that paranoid delusions were common in my condition. Every truth I told sounded like the ravings she'd predicted. Back at my apartment, I found an eviction notice taped to my door. Noise complaints from neighbors I'd never met. Property damage that never happened. Molly's name wasn't anywhere on the complaints, but her manipulation was obvious. She wanted me homeless and desperate. Delaney helped me document everything. We photographed the hidden cameras, saved the threatening texts, and compiled evidence of Molly's fertility treatments. She reached out to her contacts at the clinic, but patient privacy laws made getting proof complicated. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every sound made me jump. I checked the locks obsessively and stared at the security camera feeds. Around 3 a.m., movement caught my eye. Someone was trying to pick my new locks. The figure wore dark clothes and a hood, but I recognized Molly's distinctive walk. She gave up after 10 minutes and disappeared down the hallway. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. The caller ID showed my old apartment complex. The security guard said someone reported screaming from my unit. I explained I was alone and silent. He said he had to check anyway. Building policy. I watched on my phone as 2 security guards approached my door. They knocked and announced themselves. I let them in and showed them around. They found nothing because there was nothing to find. There's something really strange about Molly counting those birth control pills and tracking her sister's cycle. I wonder what made her think she could pull off such a twisted plan. But now there was an official record of a disturbance at my apartment. The pattern continued for days. Fake food deliveries at 2 a.m. Mysterious calls to my landlord about substance deals. Anonymous tips about strange men entering my apartment. Each incident was documented, building a case against me. Delaney discovered something interesting in Molly's financial records. She'd liquidated her entire savings, maxed out credit cards, taken personal loans, over $80,000 spent in 3 months. The fertility treatments were expensive, but not that expensive. Where was the money going? We followed the paper trail to a surrogate agency. Molly had been trying to hire someone to carry her baby. The agency rejected her after psychological evaluation. Then she'd tried international options, black market adoption rings, anything to get a baby before her fake pregnancy became obvious. My period was late. The stress was affecting my cycle, but Molly didn't know that. She'd been tracking my schedule for months. By her calculations, I should be ovulating. Prime time for her final plan. She started showing up everywhere again. The grocery store, the gym, always watching, always documenting. She'd approach other shoppers and mention her concern for her troubled sister, building witnesses for whatever she planned next. One evening, I came home to find my apartment door wide open. Nothing was stolen, but everything was slightly wrong. Furniture moved inches from where it belonged. Pictures hanging crooked. Kitchen cabinets reorganized. A psychological warfare tactic to make me question my sanity. The security footage was mysteriously corrupted. The building system had malfunctioned during the exact hour of the break-in. The landlord suggested I might have left the door open myself. Stress could make people forgetful, he said, echoing Molly's narrative. I started sleeping at Delaney's house. Molly couldn't find me there, but she escalated in other ways. She called my work pretending to be a concerned medical professional. She filed false police reports about my erratic behavior. She even contacted Caden's family with stories about my supposed mental breakdown. The fertility clinic finally provided crucial information. Molly's last appointment was scheduled for next week. After 6 failed attempts, they were referring her to a specialist. Her window for getting pregnant was closing. Her fake pregnancy story would collapse within months. Delaney suggested we go on offense. We had enough evidence to expose some of her schemes, but I wanted to wait. Molly was getting desperate, and desperate people made mistakes. We just had to be ready when she did. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. A photo of a hospital nursery. Rows of newborns in clear bassinets. The message read, "Amazing how easy it is to volunteer in the maternity ward. They're always short-staffed." I showed Delaney the message. She immediately called her contact at the hospital. Within hours, Molly's volunteer application was flagged and rejected, but the threat was clear. She was exploring every option to get a baby. The next day, my mother called. She was crying again, but differently this time. She'd found something in Molly's old room, hidden in a jewelry box. Receipts for the fertility treatments. Fake ultrasound images purchased online. Evidence of the elaborate deception. She wanted to meet without Molly knowing. We chose a coffee shop across town. She looked older, exhausted from the family drama. She apologized for not believing me. She'd been so convinced by Molly's performance, the fake pregnancy, the concerned sister act. We spent hours going through everything. The hired stalker, the workplace sabotage, the custody papers for a non-existent baby. My mother's face went pale as she realized the depth of Molly's manipulation. She kept touching my hand, apologizing over and over. She revealed something I hadn't known. Molly had been obsessed with the ring since we were children. She'd tried it on whenever Grandma wasn't looking. She'd even asked to inherit it specifically, but Grandma refused. She said it would go to whoever got engaged first, hoping to motivate us toward marriage. When Grandma died, Molly had searched the entire house for that ring. She'd accused the funeral home of stealing it. She'd even suggested Grandma had been buried wearing it, but Grandma had given it to my mother months before, with clear instructions. My mother wanted to confront Molly immediately. I convinced her to wait. We needed to be strategic. Molly had spent months building her narrative. One conversation wouldn't undo the damage. We needed irrefutable proof of her deception. Delaney had been building a comprehensive file. Financial records, medical documents, text messages, security footage, a timeline of harassment that painted a clear picture. We just needed one more piece. Something that would expose her fake pregnancy beyond any doubt. The opportunity came sooner than expected. Molly posted on social media about her upcoming gender reveal party. She'd invited everyone. Family, friends, co-workers. The perfect audience for her performance. The perfect venue for her exposure. We had 1 week to prepare. 1 week before Molly's elaborate deception would either convince everyone or fall apart completely. The party would be her grand finale, one way or hire another. I spent the next 3 days at Delaney's house planning our approach. She'd converted her spare bedroom into a makeshift investigation room. Papers covered every surface. Financial records showing Molly's desperate spending. Screenshots of her fake pregnancy posts. Photos documenting her stalking behavior. We organized everything chronologically, building an undeniable timeline of her deception. My mother visited secretly each evening. She brought more evidence she'd discovered. Old diary entries where Molly had written about deserving the ring. Photos from family gatherings where Molly wore fake engagement rings, pretending someone had proposed. My mother's hands shook as she handed over each new piece. The daughter she thought she knew had been constructing elaborate fantasies for years. Delaney's contact at the fertility clinic took a huge risk. She confirmed Molly's appointments coincided exactly with her fake pregnancy timeline. 6 failed IUI attempts over 3 months. The last appointment scheduled for 2 days before the gender reveal party. If that attempt failed, Molly would have no medical way to get pregnant before her lie became obvious. I watched the security footage from my apartment building obsessively. Molly appeared multiple times each day. She'd stand outside my door for minutes, sometimes hours. Once, she pressed her ear against it, listening for signs of life inside. Another time, she slipped more papers under the door. Eviction warnings, fake court summons, anything to make me panic. My father finally called. His voice sounded broken. He'd found Molly's laptop open while she showered. The browser history made him physically sick. Searches for how to induce miscarriage in someone else, and undetectable fertility substances, and gaining custody of siblings' baby. He'd photographed everything before she returned. We decided to use the gender reveal party as our opportunity. Molly had invited over 60 people. Extended family, her coworkers, friends from college. She'd rented a venue and hired catering. Pink and blue decorations were already ordered. She'd even arranged for a professional photographer to capture her big moment. Delaney discovered something disturbing in Molly's credit card records. She'd purchased medical scrubs and a fake hospital ID. She'd also bought supplies commonly used in home fertility treatments. The purchases painted a terrifying picture. If her final IUI attempt failed, she might try to steal what she needed. I couldn't stay hidden forever. My job required me to return to the office. The moment I walked in, whispers followed. Molly had been calling HR weekly with new concerns about my stability. She'd even suggested I might be dangerous to my coworkers. My boss pulled me aside and suggested I take extended leave for everyone's comfort. The humiliation burned, but I documented everything. Every suspicious glance, every whispered conversation, every step of my forced exit from the building. Molly had systematically destroyed my professional reputation. Even if I exposed her lies, the damage might be permanent. That afternoon, Molly's car appeared in the parking lot. She sat there watching me load my desk contents into boxes. When security escorted me out, she was taking photos. Her fake baby bump looked bigger than the week before. She'd clearly added more padding. My mother met me at a park afterward. She'd been investigating on her own and discovered something crucial. Molly had been telling different due dates to different people. To family, she was 5 months along. To co-workers, only 4. To her online support group, nearly 6. The inconsistencies would eventually expose her, but she seemed beyond caring about logic. We needed concrete proof of her deception for the party. Delaney suggested we somehow document her final fertility appointment. If we could prove she was still trying to get pregnant while claiming to be months along, her entire story would crumble. But the clinic had strict security and privacy protocols. My mother had a different idea. She still had access to Molly's childhood room. Hidden in the closet, she'd found practice pregnancy bellies. Molly had been ordering them for months, in gradually increasing sizes, each one carefully labeled with dates, a literal timeline of her fake pregnancy. I returned to my apartment briefly to grab essential items. The eviction notice was apparently real. My landlord had received so many complaints that he had no choice. I had 30 days to vacate. Another piece of my life Molly had successfully destroyed. While packing, I found something odd in my bathroom. Molly's shopping list reads like a thriller movie prop department's inventory. Fake hospital IDs, medical scrubs, and practice pregnancy bellies labeled by size like some twisted collection of Russian nesting dolls that she's been hoarding in her childhood closet. A positive pregnancy test in the trash. I'd never taken one. The implications made my skin crawl. Molly had been practicing, preparing props for whatever scenario she planned. The test looked real, probably purchased from someone actually pregnant. Delaney ran the serial number on the test. It traced back to an online marketplace where people sold positive tests to women trying to trap partners. Molly had bought a dozen. She was prepared for any situation, any lie she needed to tell. My phone rang constantly with unknown numbers. Sometimes Molly's voice would whisper threats. Sometimes she'd just breathe heavily. Other times she'd play recordings of baby cries. The psychological torture was relentless. I stopped answering, but she left voicemails, each one more unhinged than the last. We decided to visit Caden's mother. She'd always liked me and might know where he was staying. The conversation was painful. She'd heard all of Molly's lies, the cheating, the mental breakdown, the threats against the baby, but something in her eyes suggested doubt. She agreed to pass along a message if Caden contacted her. 2 nights before the party, I made a mistake. I returned to my apartment alone to grab more clothes. The lock had been changed. My key wouldn't work. As I stood there confused, Molly emerged from the shadows. She looked different, gaunt despite the fake bump. Her eyes had a wild quality I'd never seen before. She pressed something into my hand, an ultrasound photo with my name on it. Somehow she'd accessed my medical records and created a fake pregnancy for me. The dates showed I would have conceived right before Caden left. She smiled as she explained her new story. I was the one who was pregnant. I was the one who needed help. She was just trying to protect her sister's baby from an unfit mother. The security cameras would show her giving me papers outside my apartment. To anyone watching, it would look like a concerned sister delivering important documents. She'd thought of everything, every angle covered, every lie supported by manufactured evidence. I ran back to Delaney's house in panic. We spent hours analyzing the fake ultrasound. It was sophisticated, professional quality. She'd clearly paid someone with medical knowledge to create it. If she showed this at the party, people might believe her new narrative. My mother called with urgent news. She'd overheard Molly on the phone with someone at the venue. She was changing the party format. Instead of revealing her baby's gender, she planned to stage an intervention. For me, she'd invited a therapist, social workers, even a custody lawyer. The gender reveal was a trap. We had 48 hours to prepare. Delaney suggested we create our own presentation, a timeline of Molly's lies with irrefutable proof. We worked through the night organizing evidence, the fertility clinic appointments, the purchased pregnancy test, tests, the fake ultrasounds, the practice bellies, every piece building toward undeniable truth. My father joined us the next morning. He brought Molly's old laptop, which he'd claimed was broken and needed repair. The browser history went back years. Obsessive searches about the ring, forums where she discussed feeling cheated out of her inheritance, plans for revenge dating back to before my engagement. The depth of her obsession shocked everyone. She'd been planning something since Grandma's funeral. My engagement had simply triggered a plan years in the making. The ring had become a symbol of everything she felt she deserved but never received. We discovered she'd been in therapy briefly after Grandma died. The therapist's notes, which she'd photographed and saved, revealed severe attachment issues and narcissistic tendencies. She'd stopped attending when the therapist suggested her feelings about the ring were unhealthy. Delaney made a crucial connection. The timing of Molly's fertility treatments aligned with her therapy records. She'd started trying to get pregnant immediately after learning about my engagement. In her mind, a baby would prove she deserved the ring more. When that failed, she'd created an elaborate fantasy to steal what she couldn't create. The morning of the party arrived with a text from Molly. She reminded me about the celebration, claiming she had a wonderful surprise planned. She'd even sent a car to pick me up, ensuring I couldn't leave early. The driver had specific instructions to bring me at exactly the right time. I declined the car and drove myself with Delaney. We arrived early while Molly was still setting up. The venue was decorated beautifully, pink and blue balloons everywhere, a candy bar with baby-themed treats, photo booth with props. To anyone walking in, it looked like a joyful celebration of impending motherhood. We positioned ourselves strategically. Delaney near the projection screen with our evidence ready on a laptop. My parents by the main entrance to intercept arriving guests. Me in the back, where I could observe everything while staying hidden initially. Guests began arriving 30 minutes later. Family members I hadn't seen in months. Molly's co-workers chattering excitedly about meeting the father-to-be. Everyone clutched wrapped gifts and wore pink or blue to guess the baby's gender. The anticipation was palpable. Molly made her entrance wearing a flowing maternity dress. The fake bump looked convincing under the fabric. She glowed with false maternal pride, accepting congratulations and belly rubs with practiced ease. She kept checking her phone, presumably wondering where I was. The therapist she'd invited arrived with two serious-looking women, social workers, just as she'd threatened. They set up in a corner with clipboards and folders. The custody lawyer wheeled in boxes of documents. This wasn't just an intervention. It was an ambush designed to legally separate me from a child that didn't exist. As more guests arrived, Molly grew visibly anxious. She whispered urgently to the social workers, gesturing toward the door. Her carefully orchestrated plan required me as the centerpiece. Without me, her story would fall apart. Finally, she took the microphone. Her voice trembled with fake emotion as she welcomed everyone. She spoke about family, about difficult choices, about protecting those we love. The speech was perfectly crafted to seem supportive while painting me as unstable and dangerous. Then she revealed her truth. Her sister was pregnant and in crisis. The father had left because of her erratic behavior. She'd been making threats, acting dangerously, refusing help. Molly had taken it upon herself to protect this innocent baby. The gender reveal was actually an intervention to save her sister's child. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some guests looked confused. Others nodded sympathetically. The social workers stood up, ready to explain the legal process of emergency custody. The therapist prepared to discuss treatment options for someone who wasn't there. That's when I stepped forward. Every head turned as I walked to the front of the room. Molly's face cycled through emotions. Surprise, anger, then a calculated return to concern. She reached out as if to embrace me, playing the loving sister for her audience. I avoided her touch and took the microphone. My voice was steady despite my racing heart. I announced that there was indeed something important to reveal today. Not a baby's gender, but the truth about a lie that had gone too far. Delaney hit play on the presentation. The screen lit up with evidence. Financial records, medical documents, photos of practice pregnancy bellies. The timeline was clear and damning. Murmurs rose from the crowd as people began to understand. Molly tried to grab the microphone, claiming I was having an episode. But my parents stepped forward, confirming everything on screen. My father's voice broke as he described finding her search history. My mother held up a fake ultrasound she'd discovered. The fertility clinic records appeared on screen. 6 failed attempts over 3 months. Appointments that perfectly matched her pregnancy timeline. The crowd grew silent as the deception became undeniable. Several of Molly's co-workers looked at her belly with new understanding. Molly's composure finally cracked. She screamed that we were lying, that we'd fabricated everything. She clutched her fake bump protectively, still maintaining her delusion. But when she spun to face the crowd, seeking support, she found only shocked faces and betrayed expressions. The social workers quietly packed their documents. The therapist apologized to my parents for being deceived. The custody lawyer wheeled his boxes back out. One by one, guests began leaving. Some paused to apologize to me. Others just shook their heads in disbelief. Molly stood alone in the center of the room, surrounded by pink and blue decorations celebrating a child that never existed. Her elaborate scheme had collapsed in minutes. The fake bump under her dress looked absurd now, a physical reminder of how far she'd gone to steal what wasn't hers. I approached her one final time. I held out my hand, palm up. She knew what I wanted. After a long moment, she pulled off Grandma's ring and placed it in my palm. Her fingers lingered on the sapphire before letting go. Without it, she looked smaller somehow, deflated. My parents tried to approach her, but she backed away. She grabbed her purse and ran from the venue, leaving behind the ruins of her fantasy. The photographer, who'd captured everything, quietly asked if we still wanted the photos. We declined. Caden's mother appeared as we were leaving. She'd been in the back, watching everything unfold. She hugged me tightly and whispered that she'd make sure Caden saw the evidence. He deserved to know the truth about why his relationship had ended. The venue emptied quickly after that. I stood in the wreckage of pink and blue decorations, holding Grandma's ring. Thanks for sticking with me through all the questions and curious moments. It's definitely been an interesting ride exploring it all with you. If you made it to the end, drop a comment. I love reading all your comments.